Welcome to the On the Run with Jess and Tom podcast.
This is Jessica
And
Taggart.
I'm Tom Conway.
Welcome.
Welcome. Well, we'd like to welcome our guest, Susan Eckert. Susan Eckert is the creator of the HER Rapid Transformation Method, the Framework Career Alignment Process, the Vision Method, how to put your dreams into action, the Flow Method, a formula for ease, creativity, and burnout prevention. She's the author of Intercultural Communication, a contributing author to the Wellness Universe Guide to Self-Care, Volume 3, 25 Tools to Achieving Anything. And she has an upcoming book, You 1.0, which we would love to discuss today. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be chatting with you guys.
Yes, we love it.
We are very happy to have you. You know, it goes back years and years since I've met you, and I've seen the grow, and and this transformation is just beautiful to see.
Thank you so much. And I would say the same to you, Jessica. It feels like it's nice to have someone in my life who is also evolving continuously. You are.
I'm growth averse, so I'm going to probably remain this way for some time. But I'm very comfortable with that. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey to being the feminine soul whisperer? Wait a minute.
What?
I can hear whispering. Can you? I hear whispering.
That's good that you can hear it, Tom, because that's very right brain of you.
Yeah. Cool. No,
It
so
has
really,
this-
why don't you tell us about your process? What's been your journey here?
So I don't know how many of your guests say this, but it started when I was born.
We had another one that was similar. That's okay. I like that.
So I came into this world as an introvert,
Mm-hmm.
inwardly focused, but also as an empath. And empaths are very sensitive to their environment, to energy, and
Mm-hmm.
I could see things that other people couldn't see. An intuitive that I didn't know was. So what I learned through all of those things is to honor and listen to your inner knowing. We all have an inner knowing, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, whether you're an intuitive or not. But I believe we're all intuitive, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But whether you're connected to that intuitiveness or not, there is an inner knowing that we all have. There is something that we can all connect to because we are all sparks of divine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So we're not separate from that. We are part of that. It's like we're the drop in the ocean, but we are the ocean. And so when we are still and quiet long enough, we get to tap into that inner wisdom, that higher wisdom that our higher self has access to. And sometimes they come as whispering,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you leave the house and that little whisper says, grab the umbrella.
Mm.
And you don't grab the umbrella because it's a sunny day and then you get caught in a downpour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that happen to you?
It does. And the funny thing is training your response to that whisper is so important. And I went through that as I began to explore, my spiritual side, 3 or 4 years ago, was learning to obey that what the Christian Bible would say is the still small voice, right? And you just hear that, and then learning to be obedient to that is a really incredible thing. And it's funny, it's something that I feel like I've gotten worse at in the last couple of years, where I used to respond to those things, and so, but I do know what you're saying, and yeah.
So that is the whole point of this work that I'm doing now as the feminine soul whisperer. I want people to get back to that inner knowing, and that some people call it intuition, some people call it it's God speaking to me, some people say it's the angels speaking, their guides, whatever you call it. We all have access to it. And when we're disconnected from it, what happens is we're looking to external sources for guidance.
Right on.
That is always going to lead us in the wrong direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question more appropriately, I let people define my life for so long. I was like a train on a track.
Yeah.
I listened to my parents. I had very strong, controlling parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, and they were like, you're going to do this or this, you're going to go to this school, you're going to like study this, you're going to, so I went the classic path of I'm going to get my bachelor's, going to get a master's. I'm going to work in the top best corporate companies, right? I'm going to work that 9 to 5 because that is the track.
Yeah.
Only to get there, have success, graduate from really awesome schools, work for top companies,
Yeah.
and find my soul was shrinking. Not only was my soul shrinking, I started to physically become ill because I was so disconnected from who I really was.
Now, so were you knowingly unhappy on a daily basis? Were you conscious of that all the time? Because I feel like people go through that journey, and I have, and I think we all have to a degree. But me personally, I didn't realize how unfulfilled I was, because you are following the formula, right? I had a similar situation where my parents didn't necessarily what school you were going to, but the assumption that we were all going to, go to high school, we were going to go to college, we were going to go meet a nice girl or guy, depending on our, what we were, and get married and then have kids. Like that was a canned formula. Like there was no, and we never thought to say that isn't for me. It was just like, oh, okay, it's good. That's what I'm doing. I'm relieved. I'll start doing that. But I didn't live every day knowing like, wow, I'm super unhappy doing this. Did you?
I will tell you at first, and this is the danger in listening to these external. You don't realize that you're unhappy, you're uncomfortable, but you think it's because you have a shortcoming.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I have to get better so that this becomes something that I enjoy, so that I feel I'm in the right place, so that I feel like I'm doing a really great job. I was working against the grain of who I am. I felt like every day going into work, I remember standing in front of those huge doors, huge glass doors in the city, feeling like, okay, now is when the mask comes up.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because you know me, I'm silly. I'm always laughing.
Yeah.
Right? I would have to be the corporate girl.
Right. Really? Yeah, I don't picture that. And funny, I want to direct this actually at you for a second because I know you've had a journey too, but in a different way. Like I feel like you've always answered that person inside of you. Am I wrong with that assumption?
Well, I always followed what that dream was, right? That little dream of mine. I'm like, okay, let me just leave the country first, right? Let me just follow my fashion passion at first brought me here,
The fashion
right?
passion, yeah.
The fashion passion brought me to New York, and I always had this thing inside of me that there was something else in the world, right? But at the same time, I didn't know what the difference was between me embracing my feminine or just being always driven by this masculine energy of doing, and proving yourself to be somewhere and be someone, right? So I never knew that I needed to take that space to let that feminine
I actually want to
voice.
make sure we cover masculine and feminine energy.
Right.
Here
That's
today.
why, and she's the perfect person to bring this
that, and
up. This is why I'm bringing it up because that feminine voice of mine was so quiet for so long, right? And so I adopted this role, and I adopted my masculine energy as being me, and it's not, and thanks to you, because I mean, you had opened my eyes in so many different ways, and that's one of the ways, you had opened my eyes to recognizing that I wasn't nurturing that side of me, right, for so long. And it hurts to be so like wanting to control everything from a position that's not who you are. That's not really who you are, right?
Yeah, so maybe we should clarify this because a lot of people don't really understand what feminine versus masculine energy is. They think feminine means, oh, I paint my nails and I get eyelashes on.
And you like pink as well.
Right.
You wear pink all the time.
which I will, every now and then is cool.
Absolutely. But no. When we're talking about feminine and masculine energy, what we're really talking about is left brain, right? Left brain, our society is very left brain. So that's the masculine energy. That's the do, strive, compete, analyze, be rational, be logical. That's how we're taught to be, right? So look at your competitors. You got to be better. You got to strive, right? You got to do. So much that we feel guilty when we stop to pause.
Yeah.
When we stop to pause and we sit in stillness, can activate our right brain. Right brain likes to play. Our right brain will sit and do. Our right brain will allow our subconscious up and speak to us and draw connections between things that we might not have made connections between if we were constantly in do mode, right?
Yeah.
Our right brain allows us to sit and connect with our intuition and our knowing. So our right brain sees how we are the same, sees where our commonalities lie. Our left brain sees how we are different.
Interesting.
The implications of this is huge, right?
Yeah.
But balance is the key. It's not that one is better than the other. It's not that I'm saying, oh, you have to be in feminine energy all the time. No, we have to learn how to go from one other.
And all people have both, right? I mean,
Both
we all
genders.
have
It
both.
doesn't mean right.
Unless you have half a brain.
I mean, I've been accused. And I don't think it's the good half. I think I got the other half. Somebody else has got the good one.
Yeah, but I really believe that Einstein, this is important and interesting too. Einstein was so brilliant, right? And when he described his process, he would sit in quiet, visualize these models that he was working on. Like he would see them like they were 3D in front of him, right? He was using that right brain, right? And when you learn how to go between the two, the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, your corpus callosum, which is in the center connecting the two, get thicker. And they still study his brain because he had the thickest corpus callosum, right?
That is so awkward.
So meditators, yeah, it's awkward that they're studying
Yeah,
his brain.
a little bit, right? I mean, he's been dead for how long now? Wow.
But he was fascinating. They were like, how did this man who started off not intelligent, right? As a kid, they thought he was special.
Right. Well, he was. Right.
He's
different.
He's different and special.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is, like, it's part of it is biological, physiological, and part of it is spiritual.
Yeah.
We don't often talk about that part.
Well, I mean, is the biological part the output of the spiritual part? Right? I mean, is the spirit growing the biology to accommodate it?
It's all integrated. Like,
Yeah, but I
we
wonder,
like to
right? Like
segment
what?
and compartmentalize things. That's also very left brain. But it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's
Serial
all
killer.
connected.
Left brain.
So here's what I suggest to people. Like, give yourself, especially when you're in a time of transition. This is what I especially love to work with people on. When they're in a time, change, transition, whether it's chosen or sprung on you. Allow yourself to sit and connect with that inner knowing. Just doodle a little bit. He would come, right? Ask yourself a question. Pretend you're speaking to your higher self.
I've been so terrible. I've been so terrible at it. And you're not not to personalize this, but so I was speaking to somebody recently, and I'm like, I don't remember. Everyone says like like regression, right? Or even go back to your childhood as you know it. I don't remember what I dreamt of as a kid, what I was passionate about as a kid, what I saw myself doing as a kid. I don't remember. And I do sit there and in quiet and try to do that. Like I wake up in the morning before I'm out of bed and I sit there and I'm like rethinking. I'm like, and I don't remember.
So yeah, that kind of thing isn't ideally accessed through thinking, rationalizing, forcing, right? The best way to do that is to step into our right brain. How do we do that? We sit down, set a timer for 10 minutes, say, okay, I'm just going to start writing as a child, and go. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Don't stop writing. It doesn't matter if you don't know what to write. Nothing's coming, right? Nothing is coming. Keep writing, keep writing. But focus solely on your writing because things are going to start popping up and then you're going to start writing those down. Memories are going to start bubbling up from the subconscious and write those down. And you'd be shocked in 10 minutes what shows up. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Another is to, if you meditate at all, go into meditation.
It's another train wreck.
Well, I can help you with that.
Okay.
Is to go into a space, create I have a downloadable audio, journeywithinmeditation.com. Okay?
You hear that, folks?
Journeywithinmeditation.com. People have had incredible insights doing that meditation, and it's 20 minutes.
Wow.
Okay?
Cool.
It puts you in a room where all the answers are. You tell yourself, okay, all the answers are in this room. Whatever this room is, you construct it. It could be a field, it could be outdoors. You go in there and you sit in that. And it's amazing how your brain and your mind and your soul will feed you things. Sometimes they're
Wow.
symbolic,
Mm-hmm.
but you write them all down when you're done and you reflect on them because your subconscious always wants to communicate with you. There is so much information stored in our subconscious. That's why I also do hypnosis.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people are too busy in their left brains, thinking, forcing, that they need to just be in such a relaxed state with their left brain occupied on something.
Yeah.
There's a script I have where I have their left brain busy by writing letters on a chalkboard, the
Cool.
whole alphabet. Meanwhile, I'm speaking to their subconscious mind, and then they start remembering things, positive things, that they were like, I didn't remember that.
Mm.
When they come out, they're like, oh my God, I totally forgotten about
Wow,
that.
fascinating.
Right?
That's cool. Wow.
I love that.
Sounds exciting.
I love that. And there's so much wisdom in our subconscious mind. So much. Everything you need to know, you already know. Like your soul has traveled so many lives, right? And all the wisdom you need to find is there. I mean, and it's great that people like you are actually opening this portal where we can actually find out how to get there, right? How are we going to get there? And when you talk about, just to clarify for people, when you talk about the right side of the brain, that would be the feminine side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the left side would be the masculine side.
You couldn't tell me all the positive tests it got. I knew which one was feminine.
No, I think it's very important to balance, like you said, right? Balance both of them, and allow yourself to be soft, you know, and for men too, right? Allow themselves to be soft and creative, and let go of that control, like, oh, let go of the patterns or whatever they tell you is supposed to be, right? And just go out of the road for a little bit.
Yeah, you raise a really good point because a lot of men think that, oh, this feminine energy thing is for women. Not. I did a talk for a community and called Balance to Breakthrough. And it was talking about balancing the left brain and the right brain and the energies that come with that. And I got to tell you, like 23 people reached out to me after, and they were all men.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because men are taught growing up, you have to be this, you have to be that, you have to be like the control, you have to be, logical and rational. Don't let your emotions rule you. Right. And so here I am saying, no, you need that balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they were like, wait, this is different. Speak to me more about this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
How you to reprogram that? It's. I mean, I feel like it's very challenging to reprogram that mindset, right? You were raised this way. Men don't cry. Men are whatever in the home, they have this role at home, right? And you don't do what women do, right? You don't cook, you don't do dishes, you don't make the bed. You let women do that, right? And I've seen it in my culture. It's so hard to break that pattern,
It's in our society. It's like
right?
I
Yeah.
have 3 boys
Mm-hmm.
and they act that way. And with me as their mother, right? So where are they getting this from? Certainly not me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're getting this from society. They're getting this from our culture. They're getting this from TV. But your question was, how do you reprogram it?
Yeah.
My answer to that is not reprogramming, it's deprogramming.
Yeah.
It's shedding. So the book that you mentioned that I'm working on releasing
Mhm.
very soon is called You 1.0. Why? Because it's not that we have to become something different, something new. We have to unfold. We have to release the layers of social conditioning that have changed who we are,
Mm.
right? So I see it like layers of an onion covering up. You look at an onion, the outside's crinkly and orange. You have no idea what's on the inside unless you open it up.
Mm.
The purity of the onion is in the center. The purity of it. The purity of us is in the center. When we come to center, we reconnect with that. But that means we need to make space in our lives for quiet and stillness to reconnect with our inner knowing, which we know who we are. We know what we like. We know what excites us. And energetically, we get exhausted and this is when we reach burnout, when we are working against the grain, when we are in the constant mode of left brain doing, competing, pause and play and rest and listen, because we all know what is for us and what is not.
Mm.
But external voices confuse us.
Yeah.
It is about not wanting to face it too. Sometimes you put yourself in situations that feel comfortable to the norm. They feel comfortable because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be living, right? And you are afraid to confront yourself, not just the other person who's playing the roles with you. You are so afraid to confront your truth. You just keep on living in that discomfort.
But here's what I have experienced. Tell me if you've experienced. A lot of times when people will say, well, I'm doing these things that I'm supposed to, I should do because it's more comfortable, because I know society expects this, my family expects this, whatever. You ask, when you say supposed to and should, does that make you feel comfortable? Really?
No, of course not.
No. So when they say they're comfortable, it's easier to follow what is expected of them. And you ask them, they've just become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Comfortable. That's the norm.
You know what?
That's
though?
actually the norm.
But I also think that, you know, that's also a way of expressing like, hey, I'm not living up to my potential in these areas, and I can tell you myself, and again, I could be qualified by any one of these things you're talking about, and so I'm part of the problem. But at the same token, knowing that there is a something where you're falling short of even your own standards for yourself, I think is important. So I'm definitely someone, I would use a supposed to phrase. I can't think of when and how right now, or that I should be doing. I mean, let's say I should be exercising, right? If I'm not, I know that it's beneficial for my body, for my mind, and everything, and I'm not doing it. And so it's a way for me to call back and say, hey, this is something, this is an action you need to take, you know? And again, I don't know how it fits into this kind of stuff, but I think that.
Well, here's what I ask when I work with clients on this. I ask them, okay, I want you to sit in your, close your eyes. Say, I should exercise. How does your body feel? Most people will say tight, uncomfortable,
Forced.
rigid,
Right.
right? There's tension.
Yeah, but
should and supposed to create energy that is not forward moving, expansive, opening. When you look at it
Like
and
that.
say, why am I not exercising? Is it because I'm tired? Okay, then maybe what I really should be doing is rest. Maybe I need to allow myself to rest, right? So when we look at the word should, there's always something underneath it. There's always something underneath. Who said, right? So I always ask my clients when they say, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this, or I'm supposed to be aiming for this. I'll ask who said. 9 times out of 10, somebody else said. They didn't say, somebody else said. So we have to get clear about what are our values and what is our definition of a successful day, a successful month, a successful career.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't mean that external direction is necessarily misdirection.
No,
You know,
here's the thing. You can decide you are in agreement with it, but it's still you deciding. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do anyway, whether
It's not like
you decide one way or
hold
another, either by doing or not.
It's not like you hold the external guidelines as your benchmark and say, okay, no, put that aside and you start with you. What do I define as success or happiness or an ideal day for me. And then you could say, oh, that's interesting. Other people see it differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you almost have to put aside, if you're going to peel back those layers of the onion, you almost have to put aside what society and your mother and everybody else, your husband, your spouse says, and just connect inside. Because this is what I'm saying. Our inner self knows the answer.
Yeah.
It might, but that's also
It does.
okay. It does, but that we can know the answer all day long, and many of us, I'll put myself in the group every time. Doesn't necessarily you listen. When we talked about listening to that small voice, doesn't mean you're listening to it.
That's my
You know,
point. We
and
have
that's the
to.
whole point. But
And
we
we can learn
again,
to.
what does Paul say in the Bible? You know, I do the things I shouldn't do, and I should, you know, I want to do the things I don't do, and I totally misquoted that Bible verse. But it's that's the gist of it. The gist is that you have that small voice inside of you is telling you something, and it could be a should thing. It could be something you know to be a should
This
thing,
is great.
and you're
Okay.
ignoring it.
No, this is
Right?
great. Let's clarify this.
Mhm.
This is great. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We get confused with the
Two
voices.
voices. Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say that.
There's the voice of the ego mind, which the Buddhists call the monkey
limited.
mind. The monkey mind is like, oh, you suck. You're not good enough at that. You're supposed to be doing that. Look at you. You gained 5 pounds. You're supposed to be going to the gym. That's the ego voice. Our inner knowing voice is so different. It's quiet. It whispers. That's why I'm the feminine
Which is
soul
why it's
whisperer.
easy to ignore.
It's why it's easy to ignore.
Mhm.
That's why Buddhists train for years and decades in silence and stillness. It's training to connect with that voice. It doesn't have to take decades. But it's a process of reconnecting with it because our society trains us to not be connected to it. Do you see what I'm
No,
saying?
I'm very aware of that. Sure.
But it's
Yeah.
a different
Mhm.
voice. That voice is never judgmental. That voice only sees our perfection as we are. Our voice only sees that there is a divine plan and we are exactly where we are meant to be at any given time. And no matter what we've done, there is a lesson we can take from it and be stronger.
I was going to say something like, what if we use the should as human, right? What if we use that as changing the narrative, right? I should be learning something from whatever experience I live. I should be growing from this experience. I should be growing from where I am at this point in my life. So that we should be doing, right? As that's why we're here, right?
I feel the word should is very contracting. The word I desire to, I want to, I choose to, I intend to is empowering and opening and expansive, right? So you can decide if should works for you or not.
Right.
Most people I work with, should is
right
because they've been told all their lives by parents and teachers, you should, you should, you should.
Mhm.
So it comes with it this,
Yeah.
right?
Depends on yeah, I understand. I mean,
Mhm.
we are here for a reason, right? We're here to evolve as souls, right? And so if we should do anything, it's just evolve. You know,
We are evolving, whether you want to or not. We're all evolving. Okay, that's just is.
Yes. Yes. So take everything in life as doing what we're
Yes.
supposed to be doing, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But like again, both are important because there are people who I've met who are they love yummy feminine energy and they are in there all the time.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm going to write a book. Oh, I'm going to sit and write a poem. Oh, I'm going to go for a walk in nature. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then they never get down to the doing.
Right.
Because they don't want to step into masculine energy, which requires the planning to get the book written, outlined,
Mhm.
published, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Well, they're both hard parts. But, there are people who get stuck on that side too.
Yeah.
So those people have all the great ideas, but bringing them down into fruition is challenging for them. So it's really about balancing the two. But what I find is because our society is so focused on the masculine energy and the doing and the competing and we are suffering individually and societally. We are suffering when we break ourselves up into silos because, oh, you're different from me, which is a very masculine thing, versus, oh, let's bond over these commonalities,
Sure.
regardless of how we look.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
We're more powerful that way.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And as a rule, I mean, we have far more in common than we have different, you know?
We're human beings. We all have the same emotional scales.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Well, I go to therapy regularly, and I was talking to my therapist about masculine energy and feminine energy, right? And she had referred to sometimes when we are having trouble with certain situations, that means that we are having problems embracing either the masculine or the feminine, right? How do you recognize
In
that
yourself or others?
others and myself
Just in general.
in general,
Just in general.
right?
Okay.
Like, how do you recognize you're not balanced? You're not balancing both, because some people are so caught up in that left mind. Like, they're like, okay, and for some people, it's just fine. They don't miss anything. They're not lacking of anything, right? But the world outside of us see it, but we don't see it a lot of times, right? How do we recognize that we are out of balance?
There's always telltale signs, right? It could be that we're not getting done the things we want to get done. It could be that we are feeling exhausted and depleted all the time, right? So I see it as this beautiful, almost like I see this S shape, right? We go into feminine energy, our right brain, into stillness and quiet to say, what is it that I want? Okay, I want to write a book. Great. What is the book about? Ooh, let me visualize all the possibilities. Then we have to go right back into masculine energy. Let me write an outline. What could this look like? Let me do some research. What other books out there are like this book? How would mine be different? If we come across some other books that are like similar, be like, okay, I need more depth into this. I need more of me into this. Go back into feminine.
Do you ask why you want to write the book? Is that part of this? Is that a different, some other kind of energy? No, I'm just curious. Not you personally. Anyway, like I say, I have this impulse or I have this feeling, I have this desire, right? I don't ask myself why I want to do it. I just say, hey, I want to do it.
Oh, that's a good point there because
What am I trying to achieve, in other words, right? What am I trying to satisfy within myself to do this?
right. So part of what will ideally come out of that, what do I want to do? Write a book. Usually around that, when you're in that quiet stillness, comes a reason with it, right?
Okay.
I want to share them. I want to share my experience. I want to inspire others.
Right.
Right. It's you. And here's the interesting, right? So soon I'm going to be launching a podcast too, which is called The Feminine Soul Whisperer. And I've already begun interviewing business owners who, by listening to their intuition, set off on a whole different life track.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the interesting thing. Once they did, by listening to their intuition, they ended up doing something that serviced others.
Yeah.
So that higher voice, that inner guidance is always going to direct you
Outbound.
to a place that helps others.
Serving.
Why?
Got
Because we're all ultimately connected. We're all sparks of divine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
See?
Got it. Yeah.
Isn't that
And that's
beautiful?
part, and that's part of
Pretty cool.
wisdom, right? Wisdom is that recognizing that you're not alone, recognizing that life is not just about you; it's about the community. It's about it's recognizing that we are all interconnected,
We are
right?
all interconnected. And I've been really binge watching all these YouTube channels about near-death experiencers because and I am one.
Mm-hmm.
But the commonalities are shocking, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they saw because that could be different. And, what it seems like is that if you think you followed Buddha and then you die, you're going to see Buddha, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you follow Jesus and then you die, you're going to see Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the common threads that they come back with are shocking. It's like, not shocking, but it's just fascinating to me, because it's like they all come back with this understanding that, oh my God, we are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
We are the same. We all are, like, the way that I saw it in a meditation was this beautiful, brilliant sun. With, when you see the sun and there are all these individual sun rays
Mm-hmm.
coming down through the clouds, we are like those individuals. Source is the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is a mankind thing, that this separation that
Oh
we
yeah,
create.
of course.
That how interesting is that when you are about to leave that physical body, you actually get to that place where you're all light and you recognize that we're all together. You have to be in that place to recognize. You have to get rid of the physical in a way, right? And get into that inner.
Well, near-death experiencers all say the same thing. Like, once I left my body,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I was so and expansive, and I felt so, like, so much love for everything. And then when they came back into their bodies, it was like, ooh, I had to, like, squeeze this big soul into this little body, and I felt the weight of this suit that I'm wearing,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Because light is light. And then when we're in human form, we have this vehicle. It's like
Constricted
stepping
in
in
a
a
way.
car.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, some people haven't connected with that part of themselves yet, or they've been taught a particular way of seeing all of this, right? Like, I come from a very born again Christian family who has a very specific view of things. And through my experiences in meditation and being super ill, waiting for death,
Yeah.
and having experiences through that process, um, I've been exposed to something else that says it's more than what I've been taught. It's way more beautiful, less constricting, more unifying, love based, and we all have access to that at any time.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And unity has been like a theme, right? We've, I mean, since I know you, we've always advocated for that, right? Advocated for to recognize that we are all one in love and power, and in that beautiful presence that you were talking about, that is it just supersedes anything, right? And when we get to recognize that we are all one, I feel like we are going back to the basis we were talking about before, right? We're going back to being to living in that way where we are all looking up for each other, you know, not competing with each other, but just lifting each other up, right? And I mean, it's gonna take a while to get to that point, but
Well, feminine energy is like, empathy, right? And interestingly, I read a Forbes article a
Mm-hmm.
couple months ago, going back to the business environment.
Nice.
Forbes article that said, here are the 11 leadership qualities leaders need now. And I looked at them. 8 out of the 11 fell squarely in feminine energy, right brain. Things
wow.
like compassion, empathy. Their employees, they interviewed like 2,000 employees, and they all said, this is what I look for in a leader. This is how I judge a leader to be good or effective. They were all feminine energy qualities.
Mm-hmm.
So the old idea of being an effective leader by controlling and directing and lording over people,
It's still there.
not going to work. It's not
Good.
effective. People leave. That's why
I
we're in the
agree.
state that we're in, with like the massive exodus. 40% of employees who are employed right now say they have a plan to leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have women, talented women who have left corporate to start their own businesses, and they're being successful on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Corporations want to keep hemorrhaging talent
I'm
like
not
that.
sure. I'm not
They
sure.
got to figure it out, right? They got to,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why I left, right? I was like not comfortable in that type of environment. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't like this competitive do FaceTime, be here from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. just because. No, doesn't make
Yeah.
Yeah.
any sense.
Hmm.
It is a system that is not really hasn't been working for a while now, and I think a lot of corporations are changing in a way, right? Are going more into that compassionate culture. I mean, they're at least they're trying, right?
Some are, some are not. I
Yeah.
think the forward thinkers, the ones who are, because listen, I was in organizational development in corporate, right?
Hmm.
So, change management
Hmm.
is tough. Like
Yes.
I liken it to this. You're trying to shift a culture.
Hmm.
That's like turning the Titanic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
So, but it just takes a lot of organizations have very incompatible systems. Like they don't look at their all their policies and structures as a system, right? And that's a feminine energy thing too. So they have vision statement that says you have to this is what we value, teamwork. But
Hmm.
then the performance review
Oh, yeah. It's
rewards for
siloism.
independent.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Like you're
100%.
saying you speaking out of both sides of your mouth,
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
right?
generally. Yeah.
So what are they actually promoting? They're promoting individualism.
Cutthroat,
Right. Yeah.
individualistic.
Individualistic, like
Yeah.
look at me,
Yeah.
right? So it's like it's so obvious to somebody who's a systemic, right?
Hmm.
Who's
Hmm.
like, I see all the connections. I'm like,
And I think
feminine
if you
energy.
want to talk about why most people or many people leaving corporate, it's exactly that, because people are generally intelligent. They sense the disparity between what you do and what you say, and nobody wants to be part of an organization like that. You want to see people that are ethical leaders, regardless of maybe you don't agree with their viewpoint, but at least they execute what they say they believe, right? They live up to their own standards, and many times that is not the case. I can tell you that from
Yeah, and then
personal experience.
you have the leadership who's role modeling the wrong
Yeah.
behaviors, right? I've seen that. And it's listen, the worst thing is somebody stays and they're disengaged.
Hmm.
They're like, I'm going to do just enough
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
to keep my job, but they're
Yeah.
not really giving you great ideas. They're not moving the business forward, right?
I mean,
So,
many times the culture dissuades it, right? And you ruin good people that way. There's a lot of times I think most people step up to the plate and they take a position with the idea that they can do well, they can make change, they can create something within their area of influence, which is, as a manager, is every area in the country, a company rather. And so you're that could be stifled with the wrong people, and it is often stifled with the wrong
absolutely.
people.
And not only stifled, sometimes it's just not, it's like, see it as this jar that has a closed lid, right? You have all this talent beneath you, but you've not opened up the lids. And so you don't have access to the wisdom that they have, right?
Hmm.
So, like, I am an introvert, and what I experienced in corporations that valued very much like our school system values people who are outspoken, who are the first to raise their hands
Hmm.
and say something, which tend to be extroverts,
Sure.
right?
Hmm.
You're not tapping into the deep thinkers who are the introverts
Hmm.
because they're not going to compete with
Hmm.
the people who are constantly making their voice heard,
Right.
right? So now you've missed out on almost 50% of the population because
Hmm.
introverts are anywhere between 40 and 50% of the population.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, as a corporate leader, right, you're looking to defend them a little. You're looking for someone who's going to do the work, right? You need these people to do the work. And so if I raise
Yep.
my hand, if I'm the guy that's always raising my hand,
Yeah.
I get the work. And you may not want the outcome of my work, but I'm the one doing it, right? And other people like
Yeah.
me are
Yeah.
steering this thing,
Yeah,
and so it's real
absolutely.
difficult.
And this goes back to feminine leadership, right? Because feminine leadership also says, because I have empathy, compassion, I'm interested in people's development around me and building community, I'm going to make sure that everyone is heard.
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
I love that. And I have a question in my mind that I want to ask because I know you are in a moment of transition in your own life, right? Transitioning from a business that was very successful, so successful that a lot of people wanted to almost copy it. Of course they couldn't. But you're transitioning from this second stage in your life from corporate to photography. which you were very successful, and now you're transitioning into something different, which allows you to even tap more into that feminine energy, right? So how is Susan tapping into that in this moment?
Yeah. Well, first, I'd like to say I feel like this is a returning, because when I initially left corporate America, what was I doing? Career coaching, right? And it was about helping people find work that aligned with who they are. I taught a course at Hofstra University called "What Were You Born to Do?"
Wow, that was
Wow. Wow.
future looking, right? And how long ago was this? You said 20 something years
Because
ago.
this is always fundamentally this
But
has
back then,
always been.
who was listening to that?
No, I
22 years
had
ago, no one.
retirees. I
Oh,
had
okay.
high
So it
school
wasn't
students who graduated who were like, I don't know what to do next. And then like retirees who were like, okay, I thought I was going to be so happy. I quit. I'm home now all the
yeah,
time, but I'm sitting home twiddling my thumbs
right.
going, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or people who were just like, I've decided I'm miserable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exhausted. I can't get up and go to work. Right. I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to feel sick the way that I was.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So they would take this class and I'd work them through my framework, right?
Pretty cool.
But why did I bring this up? Oh,
Transition
yes,
and return
return and
to
transition
your
that I'm doing.
origins.
So I feel like I'm returning to that, but in a more spiritual way. I don't care so much about the careers exactly. I care about the person being in their life in a way that honors who they were meant to be here
Mm-hmm.
and our soul contract. I
Mm-hmm.
believe we all have a soul contract. I'm going to come down into this body and become Susan, and I'm going to use these gifts that I've been given to what? To help people in some way. How? Because when you look at the 9 regrets of the dying, which a hospice nurse wrote a book called that, right?
Wow.
Cheery.
Nothing is about, oh, I didn't make it to that VP level.
Yeah, never. No. It's
Nothing.
not that. It's not I wish
I
I
didn't
worked
get
more.
that
Yeah, that's just right.
Lamborghini.
Right.
No.
Right.
What are they saying? I didn't spend enough time doing the things that I love. I didn't tell enough people that I love them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's about authenticity. It's about really living this life in a way that honors the gift that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
That's, yeah. I mean, that happens with the majority of us, unfortunately. We just get caught up in that uncomfortable, comfortable position. You're making enough money. Okay. You're taking your vacations once or twice a year. Okay. I have enough to pay for, whatever I have to pay. Fine. I'm happy. Right. But there's so much more. I mean, all of us have a purpose, right? All of us have a calling in this world, and it's just saddening sometimes to see that, oh, is this all it is for you? Like, and you don't want to even tap into something different because you're so comfortable being that,
But,
right?
I would argue they're not.
No.
If you're not doing what you're here to do, it doesn't suit you. You're not comfortable. You're telling
Right.
yourself that you're
Comfortable,
comfortable. You're
quote,
not.
quote unquote, right?
Yeah, and to answer your question about my transition, yeah, it was the hardest decision to unravel a 16-year business. Like to say, okay, I'm just going to burn it down and I'm going to move forward in my life. That is the hardest thing to do.
It wasn't about money. It wasn't about, you know, prestigio. How do you say prestigio?
Prestige.
Prestige. It wasn't about that.
No,
It was about your soul journey.
it is about my soul journey and about this inner calling that keeps calling me, keeps calling me. Time to move forward. It's time to move forward. And um and I have to say that the timing is perfect because as an introvert and an empath, like I've always been quiet behind the scenes, right? Like I've done speaking engagements, but like it's always been like pushing myself to do them. But now I'm in a place where I'm like, I want to be more. I want to share inspiration so that others will feel inspired to stop settling and to
Mm.
stop being comfortable being uncomfortable so that they can really live more fully, right? With enjoyment, with peace, surrounded by the people who are on their vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we saw that today in the networking group that we went to, right? When you're around people who vibe with you, like it's like this buzz that you get.
Yeah. It's such a completely different experience, when you actually find that kind of tribe, right? You find people who align with the things that you believe, align with that loving way of wanting to do things and wanting to help others and wanting to lift each other up, right? It's amazing. It feels really amazing. And another thing I wanted to ask you.
In market. It's widely known that the benefits of plant medicine are deeply ingrained in the ancient Incan culture of the Amazon. The Incan market creates delicious infusions and teas from ancient recipes using hand-curated organic ingredients to deliver the benefits of generations of plant medicine directly to you. With varieties including detox, chill, sleep, and joy, there's something there for everyone. Visit theincanmarket.shop to connect to the ancestral wisdom of the Incas and get yours now. That's INCANMARKET.shop. Use the code OTR10 at checkout to get 10% off your first order. You're going to love it.
So with this new journey you're going into, how are you honoring
Mm,
that feminine?
okay. It's new in the sense that I had to do some really deep things. Oh, what labels used to describe where I'm heading, right? And it was interesting because what kept coming, speaker, which if you knew me 2 years ago, you'd be like, what? Susan wants to be a speaker? What? Right? But that is going to be my head label, followed by author, which I've already written 2 books. I have 2 more in the works, right? And then coach last, right? Through that, I do hypnosis. So, how do I get that clarity who I'm stepping into, allowing myself to become is by spending time almost daily. I won't say daily because that would be a lie, because there are days that I don't do it, but 5 days a week at least. I make time to sit in quiet, to meditate, to ask myself how I'm feeling. What am I excited about?
Mm.
Right? Like, if I have nothing that I'm excited about, there's a problem. There's a disconnect. How am I exhausted? Am I tired? Why am I tired? How am I spending my time?
Interrupt you for a second. How much stuff should be excited about? And I'm serious. Like how
That's a
much
very
stuff?
left brain question.
I'm sorry because I'm really
3.5 things.
trying to learn, and so
The
I just want
five
to
things you
like
should be excited about.
no, but how much stuff should you be excited about? Is one thing enough?
It's based on, yeah, it's
Okay.
based on what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you say time with family is my top priority,
Mm-hmm.
and on a scale of 1 to 10, my happiness scale is on a scale, I'm at a 9.5. And when I look at why that is, why am I so happy? Oh, I've spent a lot of time with my family.
Is it okay if it's someone else's family?
Totally okay. Totally okay. Right? But it's like, how do you judge all these things? How many things to be happy about? What things to be happy about? It's like, what's important? And
Yeah.
you have to know what's
Yeah.
important to you. I've had coaching clients who I've asked them, what's important to you?
You see, you're saving me money. I won't hire you because you have the answer. That'd be me.
What's your definition of success?
No, I have a definition of success.
What are your strengths? What are you really good at?
Sorry. That's crickets.
Right? You can't design a life that works for you. You don't know the answers to those things.
Are things becoming clearer to you? I mean, they are
Yeah,
to me.
to me, in my life, they are. You are things becoming clearer to you? Are you like, I have a roadmap now. I need to figure out this,
Well,
this,
we're
and
not
this.
there yet. No, but I'm understanding.
I think he needs a written plan. It has to be
Listen.
written.
Yeah.
So the
Left
left
brain,
brain can
right,
process it
right,
and then
exactly.
and then assign it to the
Yeah.
left brain.
And then I
you
can
know?
check off
Yeah.
little
It has to
boxes
be.
and feel great about
Yeah.
each achievement.
Listen, my podcast is going to have meditation weeks where the whole episode is a meditation. I
Mhm.
expect you to do them.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Deal?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a promise.
No, I mean, if I say I will, I will.
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, and another thing that I am really loving about this new journey of yours is the journaling, right? And I really wanted you to take us into that kind of, how do you get into journaling on a daily basis? Because a lot of people, I know it is important, and I've heard that every successful person in the world journals every day, right? There's got to be something to it, right?
Mm.
Why journaling, and how do you get to the habit of
Okay,
doing
so
it?
that is not a new thing either. But what is new is my journey book. Okay. So what I have bought journal after journal after journal after journal and gone, I don't stick with it. Why? Because it's just a blank page isn't exciting to me, or it was just focused on one thing that I was like, oh, I lost interest after a while. The journey book I designed for me because it focuses on the things that I have found contribute to wellness and self mastery. Things like gratitude, things like positivity, right? When we're negative, oh, I'm stuck at this, or this isn't working for me, and everybody's against me, our life is never going to be great. When we flip that script and we put things in a positive way, now we're empowered to take different actions, surround ourselves with different people, all the things, right? So this journey book integrates all the things, mindfulness, the 1% rule about you only have to get better 1%. It's something that you're trying to get better at, right? So this journey book, I decided to invite people along the ride with me. And it's been really fun to have a community working through the journey book every month, right? On these things. So it's self awareness, it's reflection. So here's the thing, you could learn something about yourself and then forget about it
Sure.
and just keep going back to business as
Yeah. Yeah.
usual.
Yeah.
Or you can reflect, make connections, have aha moments, and then hold yourself accountable
Yeah.
for taking a different action next time, right?
Sure. Mhm.
So the journey book does that. So every day I have a practice with my journey book where I sit down and I say, okay, how did I feel today? Mind, body, soul, right? Am I energized? Am I feeling depleted? Why am I, right? I look at what am I grateful for today? And I list all the things. What synchronicities did I notice today? That's putting me in feminine energy, right? What did I notice today, synchronicity wise? What connections did I make today with people that were interesting, out of the blue? What could be in there, right? So I journal on these things. I draw. There's a sketch page in my journey book that allows my right brain to draw a flower that symbolizes where you are in your life right now. Just so I put on some music and I'll draw, and my right brain gets engaged, right? So every day I'm connecting with this reflective inner world.
I love that. And I love that by writing, you actually get to analyze where you are, who you are, and why you do things, why you do the things you do, and why you don't do the things you don't do, right?
Yeah, and even that is from a place of self-compassion. So
Yeah.
there are journal prompts in the book that encourage people to, to reflect on things from a compassionate way, right? Like if there's something you didn't get done this week that you thought you were going to get done, how could you flip that and reframe it in a way that, okay, I didn't get this done, but I spent time on this, which was important to me, and this good thing came out of it.
Grace, right? Grace, having grace with yourself and with your processes, right?
So does the journey have an end?
That's a good question
Sorry.
because
I know. There it is again.
We're always journeying.
Well, now I'm
Life
curious.
is a journey,
I mean, how
so we're
does
always
yeah? Do you just open up another book, maybe
we
keep
should
going?
always be reflexive. Whether you don't have to write it down. Like there are days that I don't write words. I just draw.
Hmm.
I'll just draw and color. I put coloring pages in there because sometimes symbols or colors are just as expressive, right? And that when you get into drawing and sketching, coloring, you're in your right brain.
Hmm.
So all of it is designed to step into feminine energy.
Now, is the idea that you will review this journal to understand it greater? Is it real time development? I mean, how do we use this
I
product?
think different people are going to use it in different ways. I use it for the moment to process and integrate the experiences that I had that day, the emotions,
Hmm.
right? I give myself grace when last 3 days I haven't slept so well.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm tired and a little grumpy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense for
Yeah.
how today flowed,
Hmm.
right? But if I want to go back, it's, I think probably like if in another 6 months, if I look back,
Yeah.
I'm going to see so much that I'm like, that all made sense, right? But it's optional. I don't have to look back because
Hmm.
it's about being in the moment, right?
Right.
There's that phrase that there's only now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yesterday is an illusion. The future is an illusion. There is only now.
Hmm.
So it's about in that moment processing, you know, how you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're thinking, what you're grappling with in that moment,
Hmm.
and noticing your blessings.
Right. 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 Yeah. And so is this a particular type? Would this be classified as a particular type of journaling, or is it general journaling? Like I know there's like gratitude journaling and other things like that.
It's a mix of all of it
Okay.
because, I think the book tackles a lot. It tackles mindfulness, it tackles gratitude
Hmm.
practice,
Hmm.
tackles positive positive mindset. It I've put it all together in one resource because I found like I could get a book for gratitude journaling, I could get a book for this, I could get a book
Yeah.
for that, and I'm like, no, I just want it all in one.
So you're not
Yeah.
like Star Wars minded where you want to make 8 movies. You just want to release the one.
No, but people have asked me for a 365-day book.
Well, yeah, which is why
Ooh,
I
nice.
asked you. I didn't know if it was periodic, right? Is it a 90-day thing and you look back and then you gauge your
Yeah.
progress, you feel your accomplishments or whatever, and then you go again, or
I think you
that's
go
what I
on the
always look
journey
at.
as long as it feels like you want to go
So
on the journey.
where do we get this? Is this available for the general public?
It will be soon.
Is
For now, it's been a
this the
small
1.0? Is this
beta
part of that?
testing.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
not part of the
This is separate
1.0.
from 1.0.
The book you 1.0, I'm trying to get it out by the end of this year. I have a small review committee that's going to be reading it and
Mm-hmm.
providing feedback, but so far the feedback has been great.
Cool.
And it's a book that I'll probably create a workbook that people can access separately
Cool.
to work through the book,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's really like a self-help.
Great. Super. Okay.
And the journey book will be I'll be revealing that.
And is that its name?
The journey book, it's called The Feminine Recovery Self
Mm. Okay.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm gonna get a copy this coming
Yes,
month.
you are. No,
Yes,
on Monday.
Monday. On Monday, I'm gonna get
3
my
days.
own copy, and I feel it's great. Thank you for actually putting it together because this gives you an opportunity to actually do that spiritual metabolization or whatever you call it. You kind of analyze what your day was like, right? The things that you're actually keeping with you, and the things that you're actually deciding in that moment that don't serve you anymore. So let them go, right? And it's part of a good sleep habit too.
It is. You know why? Because sometimes we go to bed, we have so much going in
Yes,
our head, like
yes.
our brain is busy.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to dump it, we sleep,
Yes,
right?
that has happened to me. That has happened to me definitely. Well, this is one thing I do with the girls I work with is like because they have so many worries and so many right things that still like live in their heart and their mind. So I just ask them to write all their worries and offer them to the creator, right? Whichever whoever that is for them, right? Just offer them to your creator and just ask him to take control at least for the night so you can rest, right? But writing is such a beautiful medicine.
Writing is a beautiful mind. And there's a self hypnosis to go to sleep, like in a relaxed state, where you just create a phrase like every day I'm getting better and better at self compassion, for example. And you just close your eyes, breaths, and press one finger every day. So you say it 10 times, right? Every day I'm getting better, better. And you just say it 10 times. And by the time you're done, it's like that's now fed your subconscious mind. So as you're going to sleep, it's in there, it's getting deeper into your brain. And now your brain is programming this belief that you are self compassionate.
Got it.
I love
So awesome.
it. When I think about self-compassion, I feel like it is like you are re-racing. I don't know how to say this, but you are like re-racing yourself from the beginning of time, right? You are being your own caregiver, like you're being your caregiver, for the rest of your life. So you are training yourself from the moment you were born, because nobody knew better than you now,
We are our
right?
best caretakers,
Yes.
but we are also our worst abusers.
Yes.
But we can make a choice which we prefer to be, right? Like there was a time when my self-talk was so bad that if somebody else spoke to me the way that I spoke to myself, that would be abuse.
Yeah.
So here I had, can I share this really quick meditation experience I had?
Yes.
It
we
was
we have all the time you need.
It's a meditation experience where I was intending to go connect with all my parts, right? In therapy, they have parts therapy where you talk about your 5-year-old self as like an individual part, an experience that you had, how that created a part, right? And so I was shocked in this meditation. I saw concentric circles of all my parts, and
Wow.
each concentric circle was a decade, right? And I zeroed in on this one pairing, which I was surprised to see. And as a young kid, I had abuse from multiple sources,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was beat up as a 13-year-old by these girls who didn't like
Mm-hmm.
me on the daily, right?
Mm.
So I see this part that is fragile and broken. It's got bandages around it, it's got like wounds, but standing right next to it, almost paired with it, was this like bully type part that was standing almost in front of it, protecting it, right? So these are all parts of me, right? So what happened was when I left the school where I was getting beat up every day, and I moved to this, it was like in Brooklyn. And then I moved to Queens, to like this little quiet Jewish neighborhood, right? I walked in there as the bully.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to mess with me. So I
Right.
wanted to make sure people knew you can't mess with me, right? So I came in as the bully. So that part got activated to protect the wounded one.
Got it.
So when we understand that we have all of these parts within us, we have the caretaker, we have the wounded, we have the defender, all within us. We can choose to activate any of those parts at any time.
Mm.
I love that.
And it's empowering to know that you have all that you need within yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need to look outside yourself for support, for encouragement, right? For approval.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's a long journey too, to realize, to get to that point of realization where you actually say, all I needed was myself all this time, and I was just dying for that validation from the outside world when that I didn't even give it to myself, right? You cannot get something you don't give yourself. You cannot get all that respect. You cannot get all that beautiful unconditional love. You cannot get you don't give it to yourself, right? And that's something that it's hard to learn, you know?
It takes some time. I think it takes experience and wisdom. Like I look at my twins who are 17 and I see how they are looking externally for approval and recognition. And I understand that it's part of the age, right? But I also keep like reiterating to them, like what matters is what is important to you, what looks good to you, right? But I understand that there's a maturity process that has to happen. And
Yeah,
at
that doesn't
some
land.
point,
Mm-hmm.
right, they'll figure it out that it doesn't matter what other people say, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all I have to do is look back at like 1980s hair and be like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
no, of course. Yeah, that's a shame of it. Like I always say, like we insist on learning our own, like on our own, and we don't benefit from, our family units or cultural units. We still refuse to let the elders instruct us. You know what I mean? It's so troubling as a parent. Like you see your kids and they're insistent upon making those same mistakes. You know?
I think it's a part, it's how growth happens, right? It's like the birds
Sure. I mean,
ultimately
to a
push
degree.
the
Yeah, yeah.
baby birds out of the
Mm-hmm.
nest, like go fly, you got to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out now,
Yeah.
right? So that part is hard, letting go. And also, like, to be honest, they also are breaking the constraints of what we were given, right? It's like sometimes the view of things is very limited, and that's what we've been taught, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have part of my family is Caucasian Southern,
Mm-hmm.
who they were taught certain things about race,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And thank God my grandmother didn't listen.
Yeah.
But it's if she had continued with that thinking,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here,
Right.
right? So sometimes the next generation has to figure things out for themselves because they have a more expanded, open mind about things,
Yeah.
and that's natural. So, and we as parents have to let that go. We have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. I guess I don't know if I was expressing it the way I meant to. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. What I
Mhm.
mean is when you've had those experiences that are harmful
Mm.
or not beneficial, let's say at the least, and nobody listens to their parents. Yeah, right, mom. Yeah,
Yeah.
dad. Yeah, whatever. And
Yeah.
they're gonna go out and do that exact same
Yeah.
fruitless thing.
They have to learn it for themselves. But what I have found works better than telling them, here's how you should be thinking instead, is asking, how does it make you feel when they say
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
and you feel different?
Mm-hmm.
And then it causes them to reflect on their inner world. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm prompting them to reflect on their.
Mm-hmm. That's smart.
How does that make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Thought of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can go into their thinking process. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at that age, everything is about the outside. They haven't even started to even get to know who they really are.
Right.
So everything is about the outside world and whatever everybody else thinks of me or whatever everybody else is labeling me as. That's what I am.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's tough.
And they're boys too, right?
Yeah.
So they're taught to be external, look externally, like think 5 out of 6 of my friends dress this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it's like I'm the quiet voice that's just like, oh, well, how does it make you feel about it? Like, I'm encouraging them to tap into their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, authenticity. I think if we encourage authenticity from day one, I think it'll be a little easier, right? But in a way, as parents, and my parents kind of shadow of that authenticity, right? In a way, because culturally it was like girls don't talk, don't say anything, right? Or it was just very limiting, right? So we were taught not to cry when we felt like crying, right? We were taught to be silent when we felt like talking. And so that robs you from your authenticity, right? And then you see the world and you want to be like the rest of the world because I don't like what I am right now, right?
Yeah, it takes, and I think I know some people have a hard time going within, like you had mentioned. It's hard to look at yourself and be with. Some people are afraid to be with themselves. But what I would say is, what you fear is that ego brain voice, that monkey mind, that's an echo. I say the ego is an echo
Mm.
of the things that people have said to you that were mean, whether it was peers, parents, teachers, partners that you had. And then you can ask yourself, do I own this? Don't own it. Let it go. Discard it. Because that inner voice that you can connect with, that is your higher self, is never going to be abusive.
Right. That makes sense too. Mm-hmm.
We have learned so much by having you here. Yes, it was
Yeah.
beautiful.
I love talking
Always,
about this stuff.
always.
Yeah.
Shows.
It's always so like enriching, right? When we open up and have conversations like this. We happen to have them very often. So that's why we love our time together, and Thomas, joining into these dynamics, right? And I feel like he's very open to experiencing these things also. So I'm very glad.
Yeah.
And we are very grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you. And I would encourage you, Tom, to just, give it a shot. And ask yourself a question. Just start writing down
Yeah.
whatever
No,
comes.
I'm interested in journaling.
See what
I'm
comes.
interested in journaling. I've heard a lot about that, not just from you, but from a lot of people, even in terms of getting over trauma and stuff like that. There's so much data that says how powerful the written word is alone.
It is.
Right, just the written word by itself excludes that.
And also know that the subconscious speaks, right? Like
Mhm.
the one time, I remember this one time, I was in the city at an event, and I just went off, and I set my timer for 10. Started right. I was feeling things. I wasn't sure what I was feeling. Talked about some really deep stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, I just need to like dump. You know?
Mhm.
So I set a timer for 10 minutes and I was like, I'm just going to write for 10 minutes nonstop. And there were times when I was like, I don't know what to write,
Yeah,
right?
that'd be me.
But I kept going, but I kept going. And then things would bubble up and I would like just without filtering,
Mhm.
not judging it as it's coming out, just writing it. I kept writing for 10 minutes. And then when I read it back, I circled the words that I used more than once. I underlined themes that kept popping up. And there was this theme that kept coming: light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. I was talking about the shadow my hand was making on the paper, like, you know, the darkness of this mood, da da da. It was like light and dark, light and dark. What is this? My subconscious is trying to tell me about light and dark.
Wow.
And what it was pointing out to me that particular day was like this duality that I was approaching things,
Mm.
this or that. There's no middle.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, am I really doing that? And I realized, yes, I was.
wow.
Right? So sometimes it's not like you are this, you want this. It's this beautiful metaphor that comes up, or you realize I keep using this word. I keep, you know, referring to this thing. Or this interesting memory just bubbled up randomly. I wrote it down, but I don't know what it means. And then you look at it and you sit with it and you go, oh,
Mm.
that was a time when, and this is how I'm,
Yeah.
okay? Because your subconscious will feed that stuff.
Wow.
Give it a try. Let me know how it goes.
I will. I'm going to give
I
it a
love
try.
that tip. I really want to try.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, Susan.
thank you. Oh
Thank
my God.
you.
I mean, I feel like we have so many more things we can talk about. I don't know if
Come
we'll.
back once
Uh,
you 1.0 comes out, and
oh
we can
yes, and we
get a
can
little
talk about
traction on that, and we
that.
can
Yes.
come back
Yeah.
and we can talk about a lot of things.
Exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Plenty
would
to
be
talk about.
fun.
Thank
you so
Yeah.
much.
Oh
This
my
has
God.
been great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and, for giving us all these tips too. I feel like a lot of people are gonna benefit from this.
I hope so.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
I'm making my voice heard as an introvert.
And which is that's so like
For
it's
an
so cool that
introvert.
you still label yourself that, which,
I
which
am
is
an
fun.
introvert.
You're a selective extrovert.
No,
How
I'm
about we say
diehard
that?
introvert.
We say
I'm a
it.
You are
diehard
a
introvert.
You're a
No.
selective
extrovert. I like
Yeah.
that.
And so, well, without without it being necessary, best of luck on your new venture, which sounds so catty, but really, a continued path of your growth is exciting to witness from any distance. And so, I
It is
know that
soul led.
we'll have some shared moments along that path. So, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
be well.
Looking forward to it. Definitely. Thank you.
See everybody.
Doodles.
Oh, we don't
Hey everyone. If you enjoyed this content, Jess and I would be very grateful if you would subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts. Subscribing is the best way to support us and make sure we continue to reach the people who can benefit from the information we share. We also invite you to follow us on social media. We are On the Run with Jess and Tom on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and OTR Jess and Tom on X. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us, and thank you for your support.